As the sun comes up this morning in the valley in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and guys scramble with their bows and maybe their son or daughter in tow to hit the tree stand. And as we sit and we await, November 15th for firearms deer hunting season in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we've all got to recognize one fact this morning. The morning after the 2025 elections, statewide elections in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And it's a new day. And you can't say that we didn't see this coming. But it is what it is. And so everybody's family, everybody's community, everybody's church needs to take a step back and look at what is now before us. Virginia has now gone full blue. What does that mean? Well, for most folks that have been through this before, like myself, we may not be too it's just another election. And you hear that a lot about how this election matters or that election matters. This is the most important election in the history of America. And all that. We get a lot of that stuff, and a lot of that's just messaging. But these are a different kind of Democrat. Okay? So when you wake up, or when you get this, or you're getting your coffee, and the next day or so, you're walking your dog, or maybe you're going out to that tree stand, and you got a lot of hours to start thinking about what you're going to do when these things start coming down. You guys have heard a lot in the last few weeks about the shutdown and about the SNAP benefits for people on the poverty line. Well, I can tell you right now that the SNAP benefits is probably the biggest freaking joke there is, because there are people in Northern Virginia making $70,000 a year getting SNAP benefits. That's not what the program was for. Okay? People hide it, push it under the rug. During COVID, okay, the Democrats under Biden opened that program up to more and more people. If I'm not mistaken, I think that back in 2018, it might have been 2018 or 2019, I read that there were 7 billion people, the program was a $7 billion program, SNAP benefits to help people, okay? At the poverty line and for food and that stuff, right? It's almost $50 billion now. Okay? So, think about that. From 7 billion to over 50 billion in less than 4 or 5 years. What happened? Well, COVID happened. But again, this is the part about government that I've always said to folks is once they do something, they don't ever go back. If you allow something to get passed, it never goes back. And so they passed all that stuff during COVID. Just like your ACA, just like the subsidies for why are our families, working class families of Virginia's healthcare costs so much more expensive than they were 5 years ago or 10 years ago, when we were told that the program was meant to lower costs? What did they do during COVID? Increase the subsidies for the insurance companies. So now the insurance companies are making more money off of healthcare, while we're paying more and probably getting less. I mean, again, that's what happens when people aren't paying attention, and that's what happens when we have a biased media, which was on full display during this campaign in Virginia. Think about that. Everybody focused on the shutdown, and the shutdown had an incredible influence on Virginia's elections last night. Okay? It did. Think about that. Think about the mindset of people. How bad are things out there? That people cared more about the shutdown. Okay? When I've long said this, anybody who knows me, that Virginia's reliance on the federal government, it's just absurd. The people in go drive in Northern Virginia and see how many license plates you see from everywhere else in the country. It's a transient region. Okay? And that's coming from someone who was born there. Okay? And so people need to wake up to that fact that as Northern Virginia goes, so does Virginia. The whole state. Doesn't matter where you live. Don't mean if you live down in Suffolk, you live down in Bristol, you live down in Emporia or up in the valley. Doesn't matter. Goes as Virginia. And now what do they want to do? And what's going to happen? Okay? And why this is pertinent to you guys for this channel, right? Is this is the last free, as you know it, hunting season you are going to have in the Commonwealth of Virginia. This is the last opportunity for you to take a look at your license, your fishing license, okay, for this year, your hunting license. Now remember, in Virginia, they're pretty much the same. You can get a license for $23, $44, $65, or $86. Pretty much a hunting license or a fishing license, right? I have it on sourced information. All of those will double in the next year. The Democrats are going to double all of that. Let me reiterate this fact. The Democrats don't like you, okay? They don't like hunters. They don't like people who own guns. They don't like anglers. They are going to now restrict and cause pain for you economically, if they can, to obstruct. They're not going to prevent you from hunting. They're just going to make it a lot harder. But what they are going to do is they are going to test the limits of removing that firearm that you love and your ability to buy more firearms. Okay? Because they now have, as of last night, effective in January, after the inauguration, and the next session, forget about the current special session that's going on in Richmond, which is a freaking scam and a joke, and it was meant to manipulate and interfere with last night's election. You guys understand that? The whole purpose of that redistricting special session to call was to prevent Republican delegates to go back to be in their districts campaigning all the last week or two, but they had to be in Richmond for the special session. What happened to all those Republicans, guys? They lost. 13 of them lost last night, including incumbents. Lost in what used to be strong conservative districts, like in Chesterfield County, Virginia, where I happen to live a portion of my life, okay? Outside in the suburbs of Richmond, Virginia. Used to be red, solid red, until 2018. And then in 2020, for the first time, I think in the history of the county, maybe post-Civil War, it voted for a Democrat for president, okay? Demographics change, okay? Suburban life, rural life, urban life, it's always on the ballot, okay? But the ramifications for you as a hunter or an angler in the Commonwealth of Virginia are drastically going to change. But it's not just going to be for us. It won't just be for us. It'll be for families. Because every single fee, do you remember when the state parks were free? Do you remember when you used to take your family? You could take your family on Saturday to the state park and you didn't have to pay to get into the state park? Guess what, guys? We're going to be paying a lot more to go into our own state parks that our tax dollars pay for, but we're going to have to pay an entry fee even higher than we do now of those that charge entry fees to go to our own state parks. Our hunting license are going to double and triple. If you think that you're going to have that apprentice hunting license after 2026, you won't. That program will be dissolved. They don't want young people to learn how to use firearms. Been saying this for years. This is the new Democratic Party. It's not the old Democratic Party. Okay? Trapping. They're going to ban trapping. Special uses permits for Virginia public lands. They're going to go through the roof. Okay? What is it? The Virginia Trust, I think the Virginia Land Trust thing, you can permit to hunt and whatever on Virginia public lands or whatever like that. That thing's going to go through the roof. Oh, and if you think you're going to be running your ATV vehicles, your four-wheel drive vehicles, and all that stuff, that shit's going to go away too. Like, again, this is not your old Democratic Party with its roots in rural Virginia. This is a progressive, socialist Democratic Party that is now manifesting itself and spreading across the country. You just saw it in New York last night. New York will become London in the next decade. Google London and see what's happened in London with the influx of foreign immigrants into London that changed London forever. Okay? Forever. New York is going to be changed. New York is not going to be the New York City that people think about, okay, that gets portrayed. The reality of New York is going to be more like London than any other city in America. Okay? That's what's going to happen. Because that's the philosophy and that's the governing principles and that's Democrat socialism, and they elected a mayor who is part of the Democrat Socialist Party. Okay? That's what it is. And now Virginia has elected a governor who won't distance herself from any of that. Claiming to be a moderate, she's not a moderate, guys. Okay? Moderates don't allow men, grown men, identifying as women going into female locker rooms at your sports facility. Okay? Moderates don't do that. Moderates want no part of that. Okay? Moderates aren't down with socialism. Okay? So, just remember that. So now you've got a House that picked up 13 seats down in Richmond General Assembly. Now the Democrats have 64 out of the 100 seats. Some people call that a supermajority. Okay? They had 51. So they picked up 13 seats last night all across Virginia, but mostly Northern Virginia and in Richmond. Okay? But they did pick up one which concerned me down near Blacksburg, Montgomery County. That area right there, a lot of people have moved into Montgomery County, Virginia from elsewhere. They're not Virginians. They're not from Virginia. They're coming to Montgomery County from other parts, out of state in Northern Virginia. It also has a significant college campus. If you look at what's happening in Virginia and you analyze it objectively, you will see the growth of the Democrats' influence has come from the college campuses out into the rural areas in the counties around some of these college campuses. 3 come to mind. University of Virginia, Albemarle County, massive Democrat county, okay, stronghold, voter support. James Madison and Harrisonburg, and now Virginia Tech and Blacksburg, okay. I want to point this out, and I don't mean for it to be inflammatory, okay. This is why something like a Charlie Kirk happened, okay. Charlie Kirk was going to these campuses all across the country to reinstate conservatism and the values of conservatism on campus to combat the growth of the success that the Democrats have been having at mobilizing on these campuses, which is then trickled into these elections. When you go down in Montgomery County, the majority of the people that you're going to find are right-leaning, conservative, or independent Virginians. Okay? But because of the campus and the mobilization of young voters, that district got flipped. That district is now a Democrat district in the House of Delegates. Okay? Those students are there for 4 years and they leave. But they're allowed to vote in that election. Okay? You might want to ask yourself why that is and who passed that law to allow that to happen. Okay? Okay? These people aren't stupid. All right? They're not. Okay? And so Kirk was an influencer on those campuses to change that dynamic. And guess what? He ended up getting assassinated for it. Okay? Last night proves it. Look around Charlottesville. Look around Blacksburg. Look around Harrisonburg. Look around George Mason in Fairfax County. Look around those campuses and see what has happened over the last 25 years with the elections. Republicans used to hold those seats. Okay? It's how elections are won. Okay? Now you've got a governor who's a wee Democrat, a lieutenant governor who I don't even think really campaigned, and she still won by like 5 or 6%. And then the attorney general that is absolutely atrocious. A guy Think about that. People cared more about the shutdown than they did about a guy threatening another man's wife and kids, wanting to see his kids killed. Think about that. It didn't matter to them. It didn't matter to Democrats. What matters to Democrats is Trump. That's what matters. It doesn't matter what that guy does. And if he does it in the name, if something was to happen, they'd be okay with it. If some lunatic was to take that and say, well, the attorney general, he seemed to be fine with it, and they go and they harm someone, the Democrats are fine with it. That's what they're telling us, is they're fine with it. Last night, I'll be honest with you, going into the election, I wasn't optimistic. I kind of hoped Jason Miyares was going to win the attorney general because this is the most unqualified attorney general in my lifetime that just won last night. The most unqualified. Okay? And if you want to talk about like people on the left always talk about how it's like nepotism and how it's like privilege. That's your most privileged candidate in the last 25, 30 years in Virginia. He's the most privileged. He's come from former politicians, political families, entrenched interest in Virginia politics in Richmond almost my whole life. That he's a product of that. What has he done? What has he accomplished? What was his legislative record when he was in the state legislature? What did he do? He's the most unaccomplished attorney general in the history of the Commonwealth, you could argue. Okay? But again, Virginians have spoken. And they have told us what they value. And it's not us. It's not our opinion. It's not our values. It's not our lifestyle. It's not the things that we enjoy. It's not how we see our families. We see our schools. It's none of that. It's not what they value. Okay? They value power and control. How do you know that? They called in a special session 2 weeks ago heading into this election so they could redraw the lines to take control of the congressional delegation. Which means, what's the real impact of last night's election on Virginians? Is the new map is going to disenfranchise every single one of you. Meaning, your Republican congressman is going to have portions of his district, okay, that are lumped in with heavily Northern Virginia Democrat districts. They're going to cause him to lose a re-election bid. That's their goal. Their goal is power. And once they garner all of that power, it will be top-down governance. It will be not from the people up. It will be top-down. You've already seen this in California. You've seen this in Illinois. Okay? This is what's happening. So now they've got an easier path for redistricting to draw all your new congressional lines. Think about this. People who live in Richmond, Virginia, again, where I spent a considerable portion of my life, and 3 of my children were born, okay, in that part of the Commonwealth, is now going to be tied with the folks who live in Danville, in the same district. Do you really think that all of the good-loving folks in Danville, Virginia, have the same values as the people who live in urban Richmond, Virginia? Do you think they have the same values? Do you think that someone from Richmond elected to Congress is going to represent the values of the folks in Danville? Do you? That's what's going to happen when you look at how they're going to draw this map. Remember, they can't control how many congressional seats there are, because that's a federal census thing. But they're trying to redraw the lines now within the next census, which is 2030. And in 2030, the reason why they're doing this, folks, is in 2030, the Democrats are up against it. Because a lot of the blue states, California is losing freaking residents. New York is losing residents. Illinois is losing residents. Those folks are going to Tennessee. They're going to freaking Florida. They're going to South Carolina. They're going to other places. And your congressional representation is based on your population of your state. And so we just saw New York lose Congress people, right? Well, you're going to see their blue states continue to lose because people don't want to live in high tax, high control, no respect, okay, places, right? How do they mitigate that? They want to mess with the lines. They want to make it harder for you. They want to disenfranchise you and me, okay, from our Republican congressmen, okay? That's how they're going to do it. And last night is the first salvo that should wake you up, because they now control the Virginia Senate 21-19. They now control the House with 64 out of the 100 seats. They now control the governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. What does that mean? It means they can pass whatever they want. So let's talk about what they're going to pass. First of all, your open carry rights are gone. If you are a Virginian right now and you are a gun owner, you will not be able to open carry in the Commonwealth of Virginia probably within the next year. That will be one of the first bills that they in the spring put on the table and pass, and open carry rights. Virginia will go the way of Maryland. Assault rifles. Silencers. Although we don't, suppressors, they don't like the word silencers, but you know what I mean. Okay, suppressors, banned. Okay? Again, it'll all get worked out in the courts, most likely eventually in terms of 2A rights, but in the interim, you won't be able to. You won't be able to buy any, you won't be able to. Ammo. They can put a state tax on ammo and make ammo the most expensive thing that you'd ever buy as a sportsman. Okay? Your licenses are going to go up. Your access is going to be limited. Okay? There's going to be more restrictions on the Chesapeake Bay and on the Potomac River for fishing. Okay? You're going to be paying for access at your ramps. They're not going to be free ramps. Okay? Okay? If the ramp's part of a state park, you're going to not only you're going to pay a state park fee, you're also going to have to pay a launch fee for your boat. Okay? Okay? Again, these people don't hunt. These people don't fish. Okay? These aren't outdoors people. Right? They're not. Now, there are members who support the Democratic Party of Virginia that do fish. That do fish. Okay? But these are the people that are in power. They don't. These elected officials, they don't. They're not avid outdoors people. Okay? They're not. All right? So, they're not really aligned with your values or my values in terms of that. Okay? And so, when you wake up in the coming days, things are going to seem like things are normal. Because they are normal. Until January, when there's inauguration, and then the next House session, when the legislature convenes of these BS special sessions, when they actually have a real session, and all the new delegates come in, and the governor comes, and the gavel drops, Virginia will change. And it will change like that. People say, oh, Jay, you're an alarmist. No, I'm not. I've been down this road before. Okay? My family came to Virginia. I came to Virginia as a young boy. Okay? Right? All over to Richmond as a young boy. I was born in Loco. I was born in Loudoun County. Okay? Virginia. All right? I'm the youngest of 8. Not a single one of my siblings is a Southerner. Not a single one of my siblings was born in the Commonwealth of Virginia or anywhere south. They were all born up north. Okay? My family arrived about a year before I was born. After that, 10 years later, my family moved to Richmond, Virginia. My father worked for a governor of Virginia. I was basically taken around the city of Richmond, the General Assembly, all the stomps now, the old Tallheimer store, all the old joints, the cigar smoking legislature, all that stuff as a young lad, okay, in Richmond. Back then when they were Democrat governors. But they were Virginians, okay? They were Virginia Democrats back then. They weren't California, New York, Illinois progressive Democrats like we have today, okay? They weren't. A lot of them came from rural Virginia. A lot of them owned guns. They were hunters. Okay? And there's a few around there. There's a few that remain, like a Craig Eads. There's a few that still remain around. But they've been overrun by progressive urban Democrats who don't share our values, and they are going to change the Commonwealth forever. And people need to be aware what's coming. Okay? and what you need to do. And what you need to do now is get ready. You need to get ready for 2027. 2026? Who the hell knows? The lines could be drawn or not drawn by then for the congressional midterms. Whatever. You need to prepare yourself for 2027. In 2027, every delegate, House of Delegates seat in the Commonwealth and every Virginia Senate seat will be on the ballot. And if independents and conservatives and like-minded moderates and people who share your values don't show up like they didn't show up last night, okay, you're going to extend out the Democrat control over the Commonwealth. And trust me when I say, if you want to live in Maryland, if you want to live in Illinois, if you want to live in New York, if you want to live in California, that's what you're going to get. Okay? You're going to get those policies. So look to those states. How do those states treat people? How do those states treat the Second Amendment? How do those states treat roads? Okay? How much more of your hard-earned money are you going to be willing to give to the government? Because that's what's going to happen. You're going to pay more in taxes. You're going to pay more at the park for entry fees. You're going to pay more for your car in property taxes. Remember, they didn't support doing away with the property tax, right? Right? Democrats don't really like to take taxes away, okay? Taxes mean power, all right? Money means power over you, okay? All these things, right? So that's where Virginia is as we wake up this morning and as the sun comes up. As the sun comes up in the valley and over the mountains and starts to just shed some light on where we are now. Because this will be 2025 will be the last hunting season in Virginia as you know it. Because they are going to change everything next year. Everything. Okay? And it's going to be the most expensive activity or season coming up. Whether you hunt deer, whether you hunt bear, whether you hunt turkey, whether you fish, how you fish, your trout stamps, okay? You could see a bass stamp where if you're targeting smallmouth or you're targeting largemouth or whatever it is you're targeting, you pay an additional fee, okay? This is how it all works. This is how it all starts. It starts with an election, and then it starts with their consolidation of power, and it starts with a boot on your neck, okay? So you can pay for everything that's going on in the urban centers that they need the money for. Okay? They need the money. They need the money to fund the programs for the needle bins. Okay? For addicts to dispose of their needles. Okay? They need money for that. Right? They need the money for what they're going to do with schools and all the curriculum that they're going to make your kid have to freaking sit in. Oh, they may let you as a parent maybe opt out. Maybe. Okay? This is what's going to happen, guys. Because these are not Virginia Democrats, okay? These are Illinois, New York, California progressives, okay? There is a difference, all right? And if you go into this thinking, oh, it's just the Democrats, it's just the old Chuck Robb, the old Jerry Belials, Mark Warner Democrats, okay? Oh, he's probably going to be up for election soon, too, in the U.S. Senate. Don't get me started, okay? But Tim Kaine, okay? These people make Tim Kaine look sane, okay? Think about that. Tim Kaine was, okay, mayor in Richmond, then governor of Virginia back in like 2006, I think, okay? Like, they make crazy freaking raging Kaine look sane. That's what Virginians are up against now, after last night's election. So if you're a hunter and you're hitting that tree stand today or this weekend, okay? Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Because next season very well could be quite different. If you are a hunter or if you're a firearm enthusiast, if you are any of the, I suggest you buy your firearm now and you get it before next year, because it's going to be incredibly harder for you to buy that firearm. I'm talking about, hey, they're not going to take your right away, but they're going to take your convenience away. So you're looking at lengthy periods. You have to wait for that firearm. Lengthy background checks. Okay. They could actually pass a mental health check requirement. Okay. Right? For you to have to go see someone to clear you mentally. And that would get challenged in court. Don't think they won't try. Okay? I'm just laying it out there. Okay? Again, as someone who had connections to those kind of Richmond politics, at least the old school way, I mean, kind of still see them old timers are still around, 80 years old. Some of them are in their 90s now. A lot of the guys, that were in there. I remember, get this, guys, if you're a true Virginian, you're going to know what I'm talking about. I remember when George Allen was a first-year delegate. Okay? I remember listening to my dad be asked questions by then delegate George Allen. Okay? Think about that, how long ago that is. I look back on that, and I see where Virginia used to be and was. That's the Virginia we all love. This new Virginia that Abigail Spanberger was talking about last night, that's not Virginia. Those people aren't Virginians. Okay? Again, next football game you go to on campus, you're driving around Northern Virginia, the next time you're in Northern Virginia, which controls everything in Virginia now, look at where all these people are from. Look at all the license plates. They're all transients. They're not Virginians. They weren't born here. Go and look and see how many Virginia state senators actually were born in Virginia. Actually went to school in Virginia. And you wonder why they have no problem with changing Virginia public schools. Virtually none of them attended Virginia public schools. Virtually none of them went to college in Virginia. Take a look at that. And where all of these people that the Democrats have brought in and transplanted into Virginia who are now elected officials representing Virginians. Are they really Virginians? Do they really represent the values of Virginia? Or have they brought their values from someplace else and injected it into Virginia the same way they support individuals injecting drugs into their arms and putting needles in disposable bins to recycle like other states? Because it's coming. It's coming to Virginia. Those programs are coming. They have no problem supporting people's addictions. Because if they can keep them addicted, they can keep them below the poverty line, and they can keep them where they need resources from the government and dependent upon the government, and therefore the government needs to tax you more and your family more so that they can pay for all of those programs. And how they'll do it is on the backs of us, outdoor sportsmen and enthusiasts and people who partake, state parks and everything else, because they're going to tax us. Entry to a state park is a tax, guys. It's like a toll booth, right? And what benefit are you going to get from that? Again, your hunting license of $23 or your fishing license of $23 a season to hunt deer, that's going to go to $4. That's going to double. The 2, the 3, the 5, they're all going to double. That $100 sportsman inclusive license in Virginia that you get to do everything for $100. I was told that's going to go to $250. Okay? That's what change looks like. Okay? When that change is cloaked in blue. Okay? So we all got to have a game plan. We all got to be able to look to our families, look to our schools, look to our communities, look to our churches, look to us, come together, get mobilized, get involved, begin to set the stage for the next battle that's going to ensue in 2027, okay? Because that's all you can do. That's all you can do. Locally, your school board, locally, your board of supervisors, or your city council in rural Virginia, wherever it is, get involved. Get involved now. Okay? I understand. Trump wasn't on the ballot last night. I understand. Trump's not going to be relevant. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. I said it after the election. I said, Trump's election was going to be great for the country, but bad for Virginia, because this is Virginia's history. Virginia likes to go the opposite way for a check and balance. The stars aligned for the Democrats. They got their wave last night. They now control all branches and all levers of government in Virginia, and they're going to do it. They're going to drop the hammer because they don't know how long they're going to have the power, and it's very hard to remove what government does. So they're going to try and get it all done next year. Okay? And you need to brace for that fact. You brace for that now and begin to plan for that with your family financially and understand what's coming. I mean, taxes are going to go up. They just are. This is how it goes when Democrats control all branches of government. I know, it's not an uplifting message, okay? It's just a reality check. So if you're a hunter, if you're an angler, be prepared, okay? And pay attention and get involved, okay? And get involved because the environmental people are coming in and they are going to drop the hammer because they fund these people's campaigns. And these people who got elected last night now have to have deliverables for the very people who funded their campaigns. And all that is going to be at your expense as a Virginian. It will be. Again, Northern Virginia, population density of Northern Virginia is going to control statewide elections forever unless people mobilize and get involved and stop staying at home on off-year elections and in midterms. If you don't get involved and you don't vote, this is the outcome you're now going to get. You can't take it for granted that when Virginia was a red state and then it was a purple state and now it's a blue state, okay? And you need to have that reckoning and understanding that it's a blue state now. It's Illinois light. It's California light. It's New York light, okay? Right now. But if you give these jokers 2 years, when we head into 2027, 2 years from now, what's Virginia going to look like? What are our schools going to look like? What are our roads going to look like? What are our parks going to look like? What's the homelessness in our urban centers going to look like? Right? What are our taxes going to look like? What's the crime going to look like now that you're going to have more and more Commonwealth's attorneys turning a blind eye to crime? What's Virginia going to look like? It's very simple, folks. Illinois. That's what it's going to look like. Richmond's going to look like Chicago. Okay? Norfolk's going to look like Chicago. Right? And then you're going to look back 2 years from now and be like, what happened to the Commonwealth? And then maybe, just maybe, your only alternative is to what New Yorkers are doing. What Illinoisans are doing. What people from California are doing when they throw up their hands because they lost their state. They move. They move somewhere else. And they pretty much move south. And so, while Florida is going to remain a conservative stronghold, picking up seats in the next census in 2030, Tennessee, right? States like that tend to be a lot more conservative, people are going to look for opportunities to move. Especially if their kids are in college or older. Empty nesters are going to look to leave. Because Virginia will have been transformed into whatever she was talking about last night, about a new Virginia. Okay? A new Virginia. That should scare every single one of you.